Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Ready?
Yep. Let's go. Let's laugh. We are imperfect after all.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Imperfect Us podcast.
I'm Leanne Camilleri.
And I'm Lisa Downs. As hosts of the Imperfect Us podcast, we share relatable stories that celebrate we are all perfectly imperfect humans leading perfectly imperfect lives. We discover practical and evidence-based strategies that draw on the science of well-being and positive psychology that help us to uncover the barriers that might hold us back from being our authentic selves and turn them into opportunities so that we can show up more consistently, doing what we really aspire to do and who we want to be.
We acknowledge the Wadawurrung and the Kaurna people as traditional custodians of the beautiful lands on which this podcast is being recorded. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend this respect to other First Nations people who are here with us today. So, let's get started. Eric Mercier is a well-regarded positive psychology practitioner and a certified coach with a background in management consulting in the areas of program and project management. Eric's approaches are focused on strengths rather than weaknesses. He has a background in IT, business, applied positive psychology and coaching. Eric is the lucky husband of a great woman, the proud father of 2 young children, and a fierce advocate for involved fatherhood, work flexibility, and gender equality. Eric is currently completing his PhD at Adelaide University, where his aim is to shed light on the question of why more fathers do not embrace part-time work or childcare purposes, particularly in Australia. We are so looking forward to speaking with Eric today. So let's get started. Eric, we're so grateful to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thanks for having me on your podcast today, Leanne and Lisa.
Privileged for sure.
Eric, we're really excited to speak with you today, and we would love to know what inspired you to do the work that you do.
Yeah, so what inspired me to do the work that I do, which is coaching, life and executive coaching, is that my work allows me to stop time for both myself and for the people I work with. And the reason why I think it's really important, for me, it's a luxury. It's really luxury for me, but also for everyone else. And where it comes from is that we live in a very fast-paced society. Like everything has to be done yesterday. Like everything has to be done now or yesterday. And I come from a background where I used to work with very stressful environments, managing projects with multinational, and those things affect your well-being in general. And you get burned out, anxiety, depression, and all those things comes eventually. But what really inspires me in my work is that I get to give 1 hour to someone to just stop the time, where they get 1 hour which is buffeted from anything out there, and that hour is theirs to do whatever they want to, whether it's reflecting, on something that they've been thinking about, or just having a break. We can do that as well. So that's really what I like about my work, is that I can give that time back to someone, and I think it's a luxury. It's just that because most of us we're just busy, with our families, our work, our friends, our social commitment. Binge watching TVs, there's always something to do. And it's really hard for anyone to just disconnect from that. Even if you know someone that spends your time on social media or stuff like that, it's really hard to just break that and just having a bit of your time. And that's what I like in my job, is that I have that time for myself, I have the flexibility for myself, but also people I talk to, I discuss with, they have that time back to them. And I think it's really important that people sometimes just take a step back, reflect, just look at what's around them and just appreciate it or try to do something else. So it's really up to them.
It's so valuable when someone holds space for you and takes the time to listen, add perspective, and just make that safe space for you just to talk it out. It can make an incredible difference to our lives, can't it?
It does. You use, the holding space is a very good point, a very important concept in coaching. And I always explain to people who are interested in coaching is that, it's not like you're talking to a friend or to a family member. It's really not the same. It might sound like you're talking to them, but as you said, in coaching, there's no judgment. There's really no judgment. When someone comes to a coach, as you said, you reflect to them what they've said, and by reflecting to them, mirroring what they're saying, they actually become more aware of it, which is very different from having a chat with a friend, because when you have a chat with a friend, even if it's the best friend ever, the best listener friend that you have, eventually they will come up with their own opinion, and that comes with their own judgment. A good coach never comes with their own judgment or opinion. It's never about us. It's always about that person. And that's really, really the difference between having a chat with a friend and having a chat with a coach. Really, that it's all about them. It's all about, as you say, holding space for them, making them aware. And I think for me, that's important because it comes from the way I approach coaching as well. My assumption is that when someone comes and have coaching session with me, they already know what to do. They already have the strength to do it. The thing is, for some reason, there are some clouds there that is clouding their vision. And all my role is to do is just to help them remove those clouds so that they become aware that, okay, yeah, it was already there, but I forgot how to do it, or I just disconnected from it. And yeah, then they can go on their own. I'm not there to teach them new stuff. I mean, I will eventually, but the basis for them to flourish is already there. It's actually there. And all I'm doing as a coach is just helping them reconnect with that. All, as you said, holding space for them.
And discover the potential that they have there that they might not be aware of.
That's exactly right. Yeah, absolutely right, Lisa. Yes.
Coaching is such a magnificent wellbeing strategy, really. And it feels like a privilege when you're in those spaces and to work with them. And I think that, but the way you explain that about it being a real privilege and stopping time is just such a beautiful way to think of it, to actually honour that time with the client for them to be able to achieve something that they're really interested in being able to accomplish.
Definitely right. It's like a privilege, and I don't take it for granted. Everyone is different, and obviously we have codes of ethics as coach, where you shouldn't be doing harm, and that's really important. That's we're here to help someone, and there's no judgment. Making sure that they get the best out of it, make sure that it works for them. So that's really important. That it's all about that person. It's not about us as coach. It's about making sure that they get something out of it. They are happy with the outcome as well. And yeah, it's a very, very important aspect of coaching. Absolutely.
That's so wonderful. We're really interested to learn a little bit more about the work that you've been doing around your experience in your PhD of working fathers positioning themselves to be more involved in caring for children. Are you able to share some of that with us?
Yeah, sure, Lisa. So I'm currently doing a PhD in psychology at the University of Adelaide on part-time working fathers and their experience of working and child-rearing as well. And the reason why I'm doing that PhD is because I'm really passionate about being an involved father. And when my first child came to Charlotte, I wanted to be part of her life. And the lifestyle that I used to have as a consultant, flying in, flying out, very long hours. Well, it's fine when you have your partner. You're young, you just can catch up and everything. I didn't see that sustainable, as a parent. I didn't want to be the typical male breadwinner that works long hours, only see his kid maybe for 30 minutes, just before putting them to bed, or just on the weekends, or just at the sports games. This concept has never sat down right with me. I wanted to be involved and and to know my kids, because those early years go very, very, very fast, and you don't get them back. And actually during my research, there's a lot of fathering association around Australia in the world, but there's one in WA. I think it's called the Fatherhood, and it's a very famous doctor that started it, and he used to look after terminal patient cancer in WA. I forgot his name, but if you look up, I think it's called the Fatherhood. The Fathering Project. It's called the Fathering Project, initiated from WA, and they're everywhere. And he used to consult those terminally ill men. I think it was prostate cancer, one of those cancer. And he always used to have chat with them, because they were dying, and he will ask them simple question: what is your biggest regret? And all of them, and I mean all of them, they would say the same thing, that I didn't spend enough time with my kids. I was like, well, I don't want to have that regret anyway. So I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna spend time with my kids, and I'll make sure I make that happen. And one way of doing it was to work part time. So I started working 4 days a week, And I was lucky that the organization I was working for allowed that. But before that, as well as a contractor, I was working 4 days a week, which is a bit harder to do because people want you to be there 5 days a week to manage project. But yeah, so that's what triggered my passion to be an involved father. And the other reason as well is that I always look at my partner as my equal. And that's just really, really important. And by that, what I mean is that I'm not the one in charge of mowing the lawn. I'm not the one in charge of washing the cars because I'm a man. She can wash the car. She does the lawn as well. She can cut trees exactly like me. So that's not a gender thing for me. So the same way, that's not my job because I'm a man. I don't expect, that's not her job to look after the kids because she's a woman. It's not a job to cook meals for me. Actually, I cook better than her. So I can cook more often than her. It's not a job to do the children bags in the morning before they go to school because she's a woman. There's two of us in that stuff. It's a relationship. It's an equal relationship where actually, expect people to pick up their share. And I mean by that, their real share and not what people, sometimes I hear fathers saying, he's doing his fair share. I was like, what is it? It's like giving a hand from time to time. Like, no, that's just not. So that's what for me, this concept, like equality, and like it's not based on gender, it's based on your abilities. And it's not rocket science to do the lawn, right? You don't need a permit or certificate. And the same thing, right? Doing packing a child bag in the morning is not that complicated. Getting kids ready in the morning. Yeah, the first time it's stressful. There's like kids taking their shoes off as you're about to walk out the door. You have all those things, but there's challenge in everything in life, and that's why coming from that assumptions, that base, that foundation, I was really interested to research that to see actually if it was similar with other fathers, and that's why I started that. I applied for that research at the University of Adelaide, and they were nice enough to accept it, and so I researched that, and I did my first study that is now published now since March, and I were interviewed 30 part-time working fathers and to understand their experiences as well. So some of them were working 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, so it's quite diverse. And I just understand their experience. And I was happy to find out actually it's quite similar. And as a researcher, you shouldn't put your judgment on things. So that was their words, not mine, in the paper. But pretty much the similar feelings that they wanted to be involved in their children's life. They wanted to get to know them. And the thing is, they were quite settled in terms of career. So they were having facilities to do that. So that's something that we acknowledge, that not everyone can, work part-time because of, everyone's situation is different. But the main drive was for them to be involved with the kids and be present. And again, not just in the weekend and not late at night. So that's what I've been working on. And so that was my first study. I'm working on the second study at the moment, and I'm actually analyzing the data. And this one is about the partners of those men who work part-time, to understand what is their experience. Is that helping them? Is that actually not a thing? Or, do they like it? Don't they like it? So that's what I'm working on at the moment. And I plan to do a first study, which will be interviewing the managers of those men who work part-time. And the whole idea is to get like a big picture. What is that environment? What it's like really in Australia to work part-time nowadays. So that's a bit the essence of my research at the moment.
It is such important work. And I immediately went to thinking, Eric, for a big part of my working life, I worked in the shipbuilding industry, which was predominantly a male-dominated industry. And I was involved in diversity inclusion in that space. And one of the things that started to shift in that industry was the support of fathers. And as you can appreciate, in a blue-collar industry, that's very shift-orientated and working to certain times. So it's not as easy, I guess, to work part-time or to get and go and see the kids' sports day. But I think what I noticed was the recognition of how important that is to fathers, of being able to be part of their children's lives as well. But also something that I learned during that process was, if we don't allow the fathers to do that, what are the mothers missing out on? And I'm not sure if that makes sense. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like what you said about, what are mothers missing out on? And I can give you some elements from my perspective on that. I don't, yeah, so I think they're really missing on something, or at least what they have a double burden. If that makes sense. Since the 70s, 80s, women, went back to work as the right place. So they were coming to the workplace and starting to work more and more, right? But here's the funny thing, right? Actually, it's not funny. It's quite sad. Has the presence of women in the work place increased as it should have been ages ago, right? What didn't decrease is the amount of work at home. So pretty much you have women, okay, coming from being, and I mean like a long time ago, like being the traditional at home mom type of thing, coming to now you start working and doing stuff at work, but then you come home and that mom is still doing the stuff at home. Actually, the dad is only just doing one thing, which is the work thing. So you have a double burden on one person. And there's stats from the Australian Institute of Family Studies from that very good data, which shows that, and that's just for Australia, that so you get a male and female in average, and the amount of hours they work, per year or whatever. And it's pretty similar, early 20s, 30s, very similar, men and women, very similar. Then comes around the 30s when, we start having families, having babies nowadays, and there's a massive drop into the hours of the females, like massive drop. But here's the thing, right? For the men, it stays exactly the same. There's no change. There's barely any change. Similar, and that's obviously average, right? Not everyone is doing it, but the average stays constant. And for the female, it takes another 10 years for them to go back to the same level of hours they used to work before, like the men. And you can understand what that means. Those 10 years of going back. So that's the gap. So in those 10 years, those men will grow in their career. This just goes rolls and rolls, right? Those women, for those 10 years, they're not growing. They just either working part-time or even they don't work. But, when they go back to the point where they are, catching up to men, they still have to catch up. If they were starting at the same position, in their 20s, I guarantee you after 10 years, they're not in the same position that same graduate that started. So that's you talking about what the women are missing out. I would say definitely like career promotion will be, or career progression is definitely one. And there's data that shows it, that it's hard, when you start working part-time or, starting being a mom at home, coming back into the work industry, the work as a working mom, it's really hard. If you don't stay connected, having like a hand onto it, if you work part-time, it's pretty bad to come back, especially in your 40s, 50s. So yeah, I think that's one thing there.
Some valuable points in there that are across both genders, really. But I think the question that I was sort of thinking about then about that, what are the women missing, but also what are the benefits of dads at home? And I reflect on that because my husband did a very similar thing to you, Eric. And what I noticed growing up with a family who was very different, where it was the mum was doing everything and dad just came home and you were quiet and did your own thing, is that my kids have a better relationship with him. And it's also opened his mind to who they are and what strengths they have, because he has more time to see that in action rather than me telling him. So the benefits are for the kids as well as the fathers.
Yeah, absolutely right, Lisa. So a common theme when I interviewed fathers who work part-time is the stronger bonds with their kids. That is like number one. And that's actually, that was one of the motivation for them to go into that arrangement, working part-time. But yeah, the stronger bonds, they understand, as you said, they understand the kids much better. They know, like little subtle things that they wouldn't pick up, if they were seeing them just after school, after work, they picked up on that. So definitely better, stronger bonds, better understanding. And so that's one thing. Another benefit as well, they are a better partner. And by that, what I mean is that they know exactly what their partner is going through. And because, it's very different to experience something than being told that, oh yeah, today I had to do like 3 load of washing, had to do the chores. It's like, if I come back from work, it's like, okay, it's busy, but actually, unless I actually experience it, I just don't know what it is like. But those men actually, they do it. They go and do the chores during the day. They go and do 2-3 loads of shopping, or they do the nappies when the baby is as small, or they're doing the sleeping routines. they know exactly what their wife is talking about. So when, you'll never hear them complain or saying, or underestimating the amount of effort that it takes to actually take care of a child during the day. And I think that's where that understanding make them a better partner. And at least, in terms of understanding where their partner comes from, obviously it doesn't make it perfect, but you have definitely an increased understanding of what it means to be parenting. And that, I think, that's one of the benefits they all talk about. It's like, yeah, understand communication is better with their wife. There's a collaboration there because they know what it's like. If, for example, if they have to stay late at work, if they want to stay late at work, they can work it out. Okay, what does it mean? Do you need to go and pick up the kids, or do I need to do this? So that's definitely one aspect of it. Stronger bonds with kids, better relationship, better understanding at least. So that's a given. Increased well-being as well for the father. So that's massive as well. So, and some of the people I interviewed, their kids are now old at university, so they don't need their father around, but they still work part-time, and it shifts as you get older, because that time, those 1 day or 2 days that you used to, be all the preparations for the kids, the school, and help them the homework and everything, those days shift into like me time. So those fathers will go and do something for them on that day. They can do sports, they can do riding their bike, they can go surfing, they can go running. So that's this, they keep that for their own well-being, to have that time, for themselves, so that they can actually be happy. And that's another thing. Most of the fathers I interviewed are in their all or more senior, and their children older. They're still doing it. And the thing is, they don't have to do it, but they want to keep that lifestyle, so that enough to stimulate them at work with 3-4 days. They're saying that it's a bit hard, but 4 days, it's mostly what they do, and 1 day what they do their things as well. So that's some of the benefits: increased well-being for the father, stronger bonds with the kids, and also like a better understanding of what their partner is going through.
That's such wonderful research to be shared, and evidence of why it can support so many families. So it's beautiful. Yes. Thank you.
My mind is ticking over and over, Eric. I just want to ask so many questions. I've got to be careful not to go off track. But when it comes to diversity and inclusion in the workplace, Eric, what have you noticed in terms of how these choices might impact the self-talk or confidence of dads?
Yeah, good question. Good question, Leanne. You talked about your experience in your industry, in the shipping industry, right? And what it comes back to when it talks about diversity and inclusion, it comes back to the culture. It comes back to the culture of the organization. And taking your example again of the shipping industry, as you said, blue collar, very male dominated. So the culture will be associated to something as typical men. They're the breadwinner. You're supposed to work. You're supposed to be there from the start to finish of the day. You have to be there. So you're not supposed to take parental leave or to work part-time, because this is, when I say you're not supposed, it's like it's not a thing, it's not a common thing, right? It's not that people are against it, it's just like it's been done that way for a long time, and the processes are in place. You talked about shift, the shift has set up a certain way that it's hard to replace someone. And actually, regarding that, someone asked me the same question, and I replied to that person and said, what about redundancy? Do you build redundancy into your roles? Or if I'm get run over by a bus tomorrow, how do you go and fix that that scaffolding? So surely you have a process for that. So if you have a process for that, how come you don't have a process if I want to take like a few hours a day off? So it's all those processes that it's a different ways of looking at things, because that's been the culture of those organizations for a long, long time. And what I've found in my research and in the fatherhood research in general, is that inclusion and diversity of those fathers who wants to be more involved comes back to the culture of the organization, which means that if you're in an organization that embrace those values, it's like, yeah, you can take parental leave, you can be flexible, you can have flexible work arrangement, that's fine, go for it. It's not an issue. It's actually, you don't even talk about it, you just go and do it. And that's really easy, right? And that would be mainly in, I would say, just white collars, like professional services type of environment, where they have those, it's a bit more flexible. I haven't seen that much in the more like blue collars, as you were saying, environment, but I hope that it's going to get there as well eventually. So that will be there. But where you have a male-dominated culture, like typical traditional breadwinner, it's really hard. And even if you have the policies in place that allow you to ask to request those type of arrangement, And there's a lot of there's lots of examples in Scandinavia where they've been doing it since the 70s, promoting equal gender equality, more involvement for the fathers, and like very generous packages, literally from the 70s. But even there, their rates, the amount of fathers who take this parental leave is not astronomical. It's not usually bigger than what we have in Australia. So I think here it's around 10%, 15%, but there it's about 20, 30%. So it's not that different. It's not like 50-50, for example, which you would expect. But so even there, people would say that, why don't you ask for those things? It's part of legislations in our country. It's part of your company. They can't say no. They can't say no. You can ask it, you will get it. And even in those countries like Sweden and Norway, men would say that, I just don't want to make waves, because that's just not the way people are doing things here. Even if it is there, there's always still that stigma that men don't want to make wave, or it's just not the culture of the company. So, and this will come to after that, you go into like individual traits and characteristics. Some people won't care, they will do it, but most people will say, okay, well, just go through the flow, and we just, even if the policy is there. So it's really a culture of things there. Another example that shows that is another company, I think that was Deloitte, that was 5-6 years ago. They were one of the first to have a very generous package for men. And I think there was a 6-month parental leave, fully paid 6 months. And literally you ask for it, you get it, right? And when they rolled it out, no one went for it. Literally almost like no one went for it. And their CEO, the lady, I forgot her name, she came out one day and she literally had to ask the men, like, we give you a golden ticket. Like, there's no repercussion, there's no consequences. What do we have to do for you to take it? And I think that was good for her to stand out, as a CEO of that company, say, okay, we want you to have that. And I think, sometimes men needs to hear that from someone from a leadership, saying, okay, it is okay, take this, it's not like you're going to be labeled, this is going to affect your career. Just take it. And, it's that for you, and enjoy it, because it's still that even in men's psyche, that is something negative that will come to it, whether my career is going to slow down, or, people will look at me differently. You talk about, the again, in your industry, right? And there's a saying in the fatherhood literature is that fathering or fatherhood into a workplace is invisible. By that, what they mean is that, just simple example, you will go into a workplace and you have mothers talking about, oh yeah, look what they've done yesterday. They will have photos sharing, in the kitchen and stuff, like that's what they've done. And it's okay, everyone's laughing, people come and teammates, we talk about it. Fathers don't do that. It's just like, it's almost like when you cross that door of your organization, you leave that father persona outside of the workplace, and you just become that worker. They might share with a few friends, but it's not as open. And maybe it could be like because it's a men thing, men don't talk. I'm not sure, that needs more research. But in general, it's a very different dynamic that you have from father when they come to work and mothers when they come to work. Like you see like public pictures as well on the desk as well. Some men might have them, but it's quite different. The fatherhood is less visible for men, when they come to the workplace, that it is for mothers. And this gives us some clues about, where the fatherhood sit in the workplace, in terms of, I accepted or I supported it is as well. And so, yeah.
I suspect there's still a long way to go, because I think, especially in Australian culture, I don't know if it's right to say, there's probably a bit of a badge as well, badge of honour. I'm the breadwinner, and I'm the one that brings everything into the family. And I love that that's changing. I have 2 adult sons, and I am seeing, like, one son in particular, neither have children yet, but I know that one day it will be a possibility. And one son their workplace has changed. They changed to having a week in between, almost like week on, week off, like a fly-in, fly-out type of role. And the impact on his well-being has been significant. And, even thinking about preparing for fatherhood, that must have a significant impact on, okay, I know when I do become a parent, I'll have 7 days where I can be really involved and support my partner and do all the things I want to do, be as involved as I can as a parent. And it's different. I can see how it'd be different for everyone. As you mentioned, no workplace is the same. Every place has its unique boundaries, I guess, and circumstances that need to be adhered to. But I think therein lies an example that there is always a possibility to work with and make change and think about the bigger picture. And maybe COVID, sorry to bring the pandemic into it, but maybe that has also made it possible for us to think more broadly. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah. Going back to what you were saying about your sons and the new generations of men, I'm super optimistic, like you, because they don't think the same way as, I would say, I don't want to include my generation, but like the previous 50s, 60s, generation. When just a good example, right? The new generations of men, when they go to a company, they ask for policies, and they would ask, what is your parental policies? They don't even have kids. What is your parental policy? What is your flexible work policy? Because that's what they're asking for now. They want to know. And companies who are clever, wants to retain real good talent, they will actually include those policies in their packages so that they can. That's a added value to actually attract good workers and good employees. So all the new generations of men that I've worked with in the 20s, they all very, very aware of that, like very aware. So I don't know if they will use it, right? So no one can tell that because things might change as they grow up, if they become married or having a partner. But they are interested. And that's a very big shift because I can tell you, even for my generation, the Generation X, right? I can tell you, I couldn't care less about the parental leave scheme of my company when I started working in my 20s, 20 years ago. That wasn't a thing I was interested in how much I was going to be paid, how much annual leave, and that was it. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. It was like, flexible work and all those things. So the discourse is changing. And I think that it's a really good thing because that will help with gender equality as well. So I'm very optimistic for the future. And the thing is, I don't expect that in 20, 30 years that it will be 50-50 because I don't think that's realistic because some people should not take care of children. They should just go and work, right? And that's for both gender, by the way. It's not just men or women, right? But the thing is, what I'm hopeful for is that there will be a very clear choice. And that's what I think is missing for men at the moment is that they don't feel like they have a choice. They feel like there's only one way, which is the long hours, burn yourself out. By the time you're 40, 50s, you get burnout or you get depression. And we all know all the stuff that comes after that, right? So, and you get the difficulty, the bond with children, or smaller bond with children relationship, which just goes further on when you're older, in your older age. So, in telling the new generations that there are other paths out there. There are other ways to do things. You don't have to sacrifice one side to the other. You can actually have a bit of both. I think that's where it would be great to see that in 20, 30 years, actually, that, people are more aware of those choices and you can actually use some of them and to your own benefit, I think.
So rich. And it was so funny that you brought that up because that was going to be my next little question, because I've been noticing working with some youth and some people who are in that space as well. And the next generation are already considering all of these things and about their lifestyle and what their choices are. But even more so, they're thinking about their impact. So what is the impact for me on whatever role I'm taking? And just in the community I live in, we have the most incredible young humans, I shouldn't say young humans, young adults, I suppose, who are already leading that life and they're not accepting the 9-to-5 role and the burnout. And it's just so refreshing. So, yeah, I look forward to watching that research space, say in the next 10 years, what happens with your research. I think that'll be fascinating to see and to probably follow.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited because I've seen literally in the last 5 years, there's so much change. And you mentioned COVID. COVID was a good trigger for opening the eyes of companies that, you don't need to rent like a very expensive building, and having people coming to that building every day, commuting for between 30 and 1 hour to come to that place and commuting another 30, 1 hour. 30 minutes, 1 hour to go back to their place. They can do it from home, and it comes back to the processes that you have in place, how much trust you have in your employee, and that's another concept as well. Like, can you delegate? All those things are just like management of concepts. But yeah, it is interesting because as well, COVID was extraordinary for the entire planet, something that no one was expecting. But it's funny to see that people are still now going back to what it was to be before COVID. I think because the lack of contact, which is human, you want to go and see people, so you go back to the place, the headquarters, the organization. So I would be curious to see how the working from home gains that we got for those 2 years, how long it will sustain in the future, because I can see trends that people are going back to work, even if they can work from home, and that's fine. And I'll give you an example. My wife, for example, she goes back to work, I think 2-3 days now, and she will tell you outright the reason why she goes back to work is because she's more productive at work. If she works from home, she will be she won't be as productive as what she does when she goes to work. And also she needs to talk to people. She needs to be a human being. Working at home, she might have more hours, less distraction, but that's what she found more distracting, if that makes sense. She needs that. So everyone is different in the way they work. So it will be interesting to see how that pans out. And I expect that there will be different models for different organizations there.
Fantastic. So, Eric, based on our conversation today, do you have a book or a podcast or TED Talk that you might recommend to our listeners today? And we'll share those on the show notes today.
Yeah. So one book I would recommend is a book called Who Knew, from someone called Michael Ray. And it's it's a book that he wrote, and it's about his story and his daughter. So Michael became a dad in his 50s, and this completely changed his whole life and the whole way he thought about fatherhood. So it's a really interesting book. It's called Who Knew, from bouncing.
How do you spell that? How do you say that?
So WHO, Who Knew,
WHO.
NUKNEW, Who Knew, from Michael Ray.
Oh, beautiful.
And that is story becoming a dad at 50 in his 50s, and being a single dad as well with his daughter. Her name is Charlie. And what I like about it is that it shows that obviously nothing is planned in life. Things change, but you can make it happen. So if Michael changed his entire perspective at fatherhood, obviously was challenged. He learned, I would say, in the trenches, being a single dad. But I think that's a good, inspiring story for men that think that it is possible. You can do it even in your 50s. If you want to do it, you can make it happen. That's what that book, I think, is quite inspirational for men, who wants to be more involved with their children. And Michael is a big advocate of that, of involved fatherhood. And yes, that would be a book I would recommend.
Sounds like one that I'd like to read, actually. Yeah. Anything that's inspirational, I think, is really important. And in that lens of fatherhood, it's perfect, especially from another father.
That's right. And what I like about that as well is that it's not sugar-coated. So it's real experiences. And that's what men need to be as well. It's like, it's not all, and that's the difference between men and women, right? So women, they've known that for ages, right? They know exactly, they're sharing and stuff. Men don't talk, but they need to hear those things. They need to know, sometimes it's really fun, it's really good, but sometimes not so good. But, you go through those moments, and it gets better. You get stuff out of it. The children get stuff out of it as well. It goes both ways, and it benefits the whole family, and, we're all better for it. So I think, that's what I like about that book and the way it's been narrated as well.
Thank you.
Eric, thank you so much for the important work that you are doing in this space. It's exciting to think about where your research is heading with this, and what opportunities might open up for fathers, and the larger awareness that we might build. If people want to find out more about the work that you're doing or connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that, please?
Yeah, they can contact me with my email address. My email address is Eric, ERIC, .Mercier, MERCIER, at Own Goals Coaching, which is OWNGOALSCOACHING gmail.com. And I think you probably will share that later on, but
definitely.
Yeah, so that's a bit mouthful. Sorry. But yeah, email address is the easiest way to contact me, or my website, which is the same domain.
Excellent. Thank you. And yes, we will most definitely put them in the show notes.
Well, your final little question that we love to share with all of our guests on our show. We're just wondering, Eric, have you got one self-care strategy in your wellbeing toolkit that you think you might be able to share with our listeners today?
Yeah, sure, Lisa. And I think it's almost closing the cycle. And I think that was the first thing I said at the beginning. And the tool, what I use the most is just stop, like literally stop. Whatever the issue is now, I guarantee, and experience actually back that up. Whatever issue you have now, it will still be there in 20 minutes. It will still be there in 1 hour. It will still be there tomorrow. It's not gonna go away. So the best thing you can do if you like, having a challenging time, just stop, have a break, take a breath, go for a walk, do something else, and come back to it later. There's that old saying that people saying that sleep on it. If you can actually even, wait the day after, that's even better. And, that old saying, sleep on it, is not that it's not a silly saying, because what it does as you sleep during the night, and that's actually based on science and literature, your brain processes things. Your brain actually processes things, even if you're sleeping, you're unconscious, process things. And in the day after, you come back with better solutions or better options than being rushed to do it straight away. What you do when you're rushing to do things and addressing challenge now, you might come with something that is okay, maybe half okay. But then what you will do, you will find actually the day after or 2 days later, you find something better. And what you're doing some rework. You're actually either amending what you've done or redoing it a different way. That is actually much better because now you have time to process information. So in terms of well-being, and that's the hardest thing to do for anyone, me included. When you face with a challenge, your first reaction is that I have to address it now, because it's so important. My boss is saying it's important. My wife, my husband is saying it's important. My kids wants to do it now. First thing, if you care a little bit, you want to do it now because that's a natural reaction. But sometimes the best move is actually just not to do it now. Just take some time. And it's really hard. It's really hard to push back and say, no, I'll come back to you in an hour or maybe tomorrow. Just let me process it, because there's different factors that you don't want to be, impolite or rude or making sound like you don't care. Because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is getting like a better solution for that person, but also for yourself, and that's rushing. So stopping, like having a break and come back to it later. And I think it's really hard in our society because of the way it's so fast paced, and people want things now. So with internet, we created those habits, those demands, those culture of having things instantaneously instead of waiting a bit. If things don't show up now, when you order something, you're just looking at the trackers every second. It's like, okay, where is it? Is it in Melbourne? Is it in Sydney? Where is that parcel coming? So it is hard. It is hard, but if you can work on those habits, I think it does benefit eventually at the end of the day.
Thank you, Eric. We have really enjoyed this conversation. It's been such an eye-opener. I've learned so much and really excited to learn more from your research. So I'll be watching you. I thank you so much for the important work that you're doing.
Such an incredible human, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had me hook, line, and sinker from the minute he started when he talked about stop time as a coach.
Yes. Yeah. I was just
the most kindest person or dads, I'm going to say, that I've ever met, I think.
The work that he's doing is groundbreaking in creating possibility for fathers. And, he did mention that, young men of today are probably a bit more thoughtful in the jobs that they're choosing these days and the things that are available to them as they sort of think about their future, whereas perhaps in the past, people perhaps in our own age group, Lisa, might not have thought about that so much, that these things are so important to people, to men, to families, I think, as we think about the importance of our well-being and that importance of connection and relationships in our families.
Yeah. And the important work that he was highlighting a lot about the fathering in the benefits of working part-time, but also the benefits that the children in the family, as well as the partners. I thought that was fantastic that he raised, the relationships is, one of the benefits is the relationships with the bonding that he talked about with the kids, and he gets to really know their children better, but also that they have a better understanding of their partner and have so much more respect in that relationship about how much work their partner has been doing, and therefore is able to have more of a shared, maybe common approach in that. And the other one was becoming a better parent as well as a partner, and having those bonds with the benefit of it, but the communication and collaboration with each other because of that relationship together, and shifting from just going to work and coming home and hardly seeing your kids and your partner, not knowing what's going on, to a really big opening of what's going on in the family. So many benefits of it.
I grew up in that environment where Dad was away. He'd come home, and it changed a bit as I got older because I worked within my family's business, and that that changed. I spent a lot of time with my father, and I feel I have quite a bond with my dad.
Like, when we were growing up, Leanne, there was such a system where fathers were not really present in the day-to-day life of the children. And I would hazard a guess, this is a big thought process, is that as children, we didn't really get to know our dads well, and I don't think they got to know us well because they were very much at work, come home, and when they came home, they were exhausted, and it was pretty much dinner and bed, and that was it. But by having an opportunity now where fathers are much more engaged in the connection with their family, but also their partner, and understanding it more, seems to be more of a shared process in that parenting. And I think that's the benefit, where those benefits come from. So for those who still are stuck in perhaps an older system, can maybe think about, well, how can their organisation and how can they do the things that they perhaps would prefer to be doing to benefit families more.
It's breaking that link in the chain of always doing what we've always done, and finding a way forward, a meaningful way forward.
But maybe that's highlighting too the barriers. There are barriers when we talk about that if you leave work and do it differently or part-time, am I somehow missing out on promotions, or am I missing out on professional learning? Like, there are other parts there, but, can you reframe that in a different way where, well, the benefit of me working part-time is this, and if I need to do professional learning, then I need to have those conversations with my workplace and what culture they have to enable us to live our best life in both worlds.
Just so much. What a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, can't wait to hear more of his research.
Me too.
Bye for now, everyone.
Okay.
And thank you for listening to the Imperfect Us podcast. As always, we are extremely grateful to our executive producer, Brenton Ainsworth, for helping us to put this episode together. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with someone you care about, and we would be grateful if you could rate this podcast on iTunes. To continue the conversation and see what we're up to, you can connect with us on LinkedIn. Just search for Imperfect Us. Bye for now.